Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about the Virgo new moon that is happening on September 2nd. It's already September. It's going to be September 2nd at 8:56 p.m. here in New Orleans. So depending on where you are in the world, it might be happening on September 3rd. So just to remind you, when we have a new moon, well, what I call the dark moon, it's when the sun and the moon are conjunct. They're at the same degree. And because they are conjunct, there is no light reflecting off the moon because the moon reflects the sun. And then at that time of darkness, I always call this a time of rest. This is when we go into the void. This is when we become creative. But we say plant those seeds, but I suggest that we just rest at this time because that is when our masculine and feminine are together and they're in an intimate conversation. So to me, the new moon is always when you start to see that first little peak of light on the moon. And once you've had that time of rest with yourself, your masculine and feminine together like that, I think it's easier to set those intentions to come up for the coming moon cycle. So Virgo dark moon, it is happening at 11 degrees of Virgo. So put a pin in that. And what's going on around that same time is that we have Uranus turning retrograde in Taurus at 27 degrees. And this is the furthest Taurus has been. I mean, this is the furthest Uranus has been in Taurus in our lifetime. And so it's stationing retrograde, I believe, on the 1st, so a day before. And then we will finally have Pluto dip back into Capricorn at that 29th degree of Capricorn. And so we have this beautiful dark moon of Virgo who is witnessing this, right? The sun and the moon are together, our masculine and feminine are together, and we're witnessing these two planets, one station retrograde and one move back, as we moved into this new energy that we're experiencing on the earth. So I think that the theme for this dark moon and this moon cycle moving into going towards the full moon, and autumn and eclipse season, is this idea of just kind of being in reverence. Virgo is the Virgin. Virgo is an earth sign. Virgo is the resolver. And, themes that I think we're resolving 100% are ones of dependency and codependency. Jupiter and Saturn are still in their square, and they're going to be in the square for months, you guys. So it's important that we keep talking about it, but just understand that square isn't going anywhere. Sometimes with astrology, like there's always this big build up, and then we don't talk about it anymore. But this square with Jupiter and Saturn are going to be there for a while because Jupiter's it's going to turn, I think, retrograde later this month or next month. So, and Pisces, Saturn in Pisces is already retrograde. So it's just kind of spinning slowly at those 2 points. So again, the sun and the moon are watching that square as well and kind of seeing how everything is shifting and moving towards this new way and this new energy of us being as this collective. So the fact that the dark moon is at 11 degrees of Virgo makes me think of the High Priestess, because she is the number 2 card in the tarot. And you can see she sits between 2 pillars, right? And so this idea that this full moon, or this new moon, excuse me, is dealing with these ideas of releasing dependency and codependency has to do with that. It has to do with Pluto moving back into Capricorn, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But as you can see, the High Priestess, so the 1111, like we talk about portals, and the number 11 is a portal that we always call it because it's it's a gateway, right? The number 11. The number 2, and she sits between the 2 pillars of Boaz and Joaquin, which were said to be the entrance to the mystic Temple of Solomon. You guys can look that up if you want to. But the high priestess sits in between those two pillars, and she's interdependent. And one of the themes of Aquarius is interdependency, right? This idea of understanding how things can work together independently, but there is a copacetic relationship instead of this theme of codependency, where things feel like they can't work together unless everyone's kind of all in and feeling the same, whether you want to or not, right? So the high priestess is sitting there. You can see she's got her pomegranates behind her, which is again an homage to Persephone, right? We are getting ready to go into autumn, which is when she starts to make that journey to the underground, right? And so it is important for us at this time of the dark moon to sit in darkness with ourselves, right? And sit and notice and see maybe where things are dependent or codependent. And I'm going to read real quick about what Stephen Forrest says about Virgo, because we are in this Virgo season, and Virgo, the Virgin. So I always think of obviously the Madonna, you know, Mother Mary. It says the Virgin is an image of purity. Nothing has possessed her. She is attached to nothing, wants nothing, fears nothing. Nothing holds her. She is free, unbound by any earthly drama. And that is the idea of, you know, Virgo the Virgin, because it is not tied to anything. It can go in and help resolve situations. And so that is the energy that I would like for us to kind of work with and think about as we go towards the full moon, you know, in this moon cycle. The high priestess sits on her throne. She can see between two worlds, right? She sees between the veil, if you will. And so she observes. And so if the idea is like, if you need the high priestess or you're calling on the high priestess to help you, you would go to this energy, and this is how I read it, and ask or surrender and then be open to listening to see what they say. When you go to the tarot and just ask the tarot, like, oh, what represents Virgo in the tarot, you will get the Hermit, which again is someone who is by themselves. Now, the idea of like, this isn't the idea of just being a lonely miser or a spinster, or what, I don't know what the other word is, for the rest of your life, but it's this idea of remembering what your light is, right? This whole Virgo season to me is us remembering who we are, what our light is, how we can come out and shine our light if we need to take a time out, right? If we need to go to the cave and sit with the earth, right? You're in a cave, right? Virgo, earth, mutable, right? You've got to kind of leave things behind to get things going. And this is where we are, right? With the seasons, we're leaving summer, moving into fall. And so it is this idea of sitting there. And then when you come out, you're able to shine your light, right? You're able to speak who you are. You're able to speak to that truth. And it's important to remember that Mercury just went direct. Thank you, Jesus. In Leo, and Leo is our solar plexus. Leo is our self-confidence, right? And sometimes maybe moving forward, the way we speak and show our self-confidence will be with our light. And not necessarily our words, but just with our energy and our confidence in being, right? This idea that we are working with this divine feminine energy, with the high priestess, going to this, like this, that energy that is pure, right? And it's not to say that we as people are unpure. It is this idea about going back to source, going back to what we came from, right? That old story. And so, in sitting there and kind of meditating and seeing what needs to fall away in order for us to get where we want to go. One of the reasons that I'm feeling about this dark moon being in these themes is because Pluto moved back into Capricorn. And as we keep talking about Capricorn, which is another earth sign, cardinal earth, it is about how we work. And so it is about what people say, you know, top down all these things that we're starting to move away from. But it's also important to remember with Uranus retrograding in Taurus. You know, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is love. Venus is our self-worth. And Taurus is fixed earth, right? So we have all these earth signs. We have all this action happening in these earth signs. And it's giving us a new foundation. It's allowing us to rebuild what it is that we want to rebuild. It's allowing us to get into new earth, right? Fresh soil in order to plant these new seeds. You know, when I talk about like this new energy coming in, it would be like, you know, like if you keep, you know, if you're doing a lot of self work and trying to do all the self healing for years, and like you just kept going back around with that cycle, and the same cycle would come back around and would kind of be different. Well, this is to me starting a brand new cycle where it can be very different because we are getting new energy to work with, quote unquote, new earth, right? 27 degrees. Uranus, um, shock and awe, if you will, Uranus, the rebellion, right? I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. My family history needs to be changed, all those things, right? And these are kind of like bigger themes going on. So, but this is that energy that's here, right? And then you have Pluto, which is death, going back into Capricorn. And so it's going to be, to me, um, working differently, right? Capricorn is a sign of work. So it's like death to this old idea of how we worked, and whether it's working in jobs, working in relationships, working on ourselves, just the way we work. We're getting this permission to change it all up, right? To get rid of these old patriarchal structures, if you will, but at least toxic structures, or both, that we can get rid of. You know, when we go to Capricorn, it is the devil, right? And you can see they're chained to each other. And so this is to me like Pluto's going back. Did I pull the death card? Yeah, Pluto is death. Pluto is going into Capricorn, right? We'll do it this way so he can come trampling over. But Pluto's going in there so we can get rid of these chains, right, of codependency and dependency. And whether it's like codependency in your job, you know, this idea that, you know, we got codependent of certain lifestyles, you know, we got codependent, like I have to have this paycheck because I have to do these things. Like codependency runs a big river, a deep river, if you will. You know, it's important for us to look at what codependency looks like in different ways, or just the word dependency in different ways. And that is one of the gifts of Pluto coming back into Capricorn after spending this time in Aquarius, which Aquarius is air, Aquarius is communication, right? Aquarius is the individual, and then the collective, right? And so if we all thought we had to be chained to this idea of the way we live, um, you know, the way we show up, the way we express ourselves. This is the only way you're going to find a partner. You know, all these things. This is, if you're in a relationship, you know, you got to stick with it, even though it's literally killing you. All these things, right? Um, the way you work, I think I already said that, but just like if you're, you know, you have to pay this or you're not going to get that. All these themes, right, are going to get trampled on by death with Pluto in there. And it's important for us to start noticing this, right? And it's going to be helpful if we're sitting in the presence with the high priestess. The high priestess, yes, is the high priestess, but she sits with us. You know, it's not like unless you want it to be, but it can be right here, right? And you can sit in that presence and you can see what's happening in front of you. Venus, Taurus is the Empress, right? So, and this is the divine timing that comes in. Uranus, which by the way, I see Uranus as the tower. I don't know if other people do, but because Uranus is known as shock and awe, right? Lightning, things happening quick. I read it as the tower. I don't think most people do, or maybe they do. I don't know, but whatever. Put it in the comments below, as they say. So the tower is here, right? And so we have the tower. I'm going to put these two cards down. Uranus in Taurus, churning up the earth, right? And so we can be in this position, right? And get out of this. Uranus is getting us out of the tower. Places where we felt safe, but it really wasn't. It was just keeping us trapped, right? And then these guys coming in on this, coming in hot over here. So we have a lot of movement. I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, we have a lot of movement, right? This is Uranus in Taurus. This is Pluto in Capricorn. So this is what's going on at the same time as we have this beautiful dark moon in Virgo. So it's important to allow that to happen. It's important to witness. It's important to take notes. It's important to see how we feel. I would say it's important to stay grounded, however that works for you. But it's also important for you guys to really look and see where, like, maybe where you do feel scared, or maybe, this happens all the time when things go retrograde. Old partners come back and they want to talk, or maybe you're thinking about an old partner, right? And it's time that we start observing this, right? And start observing, why do I want to talk to these people? Do I really feel like it's going to be different this time? And the thing is this, you guys, if you're just like, no, and you kind of get down on yourself, you don't need to get down on yourself. You just need to observe, right? And I mean, look, some days are better than others. Some days I'm like, well, some days I'm like, we got to do better. Okay. So just know that too. But it is this idea of observing, why is this person back in my life? Why do I want to stay with this person? Why do I want to keep stay in this job? What are the things that scare me about moving on, or moving differently, or presenting differently, or speaking differently, right? Um, and observe those, because the good news about Virgo season, Virgo is the resolver. She's going to help us resolve, right? She's sitting, the High Priestess is here for this dark moon. I can't believe it's at 11 degrees. I guess I can. And we have to work, we have 30 days to work with this, right? Well, a little less because we're a few days in, but this is why we work with seasons. This is why we work with these archetypes, if you will. This is the Hermit. Take time to be with yourself, even if right now I know school's back in session, it's football season, all these things, right? But it's important to take time and give yourself a timeout, and and when I say meditate, it doesn't mean like you go into a completely altered state or something like that, but I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to meditate on what's going on in my life, and just kind of focus on a few things, and then see what rises to the top, because Virgo will help you resolve what needs to be resolved in order for you to move forward. And she's not keeping anything under wraps this time, okay? The stuff that bugs the shit out of you is probably what needs to be resolved. And sometimes, you guys, it could just be you're tired. You need a snack. You need some more water, right? Because Virgo, this is what's coming in, Virgo rules digestion, so this Virgo season, and that digestive system is those major chakras, it's the solar plexus, it's the sacral, right? That's our digestion. That we got to have confidence in manifesting, right? And so those are those two chakras. But notice if you're eating things and then you feel angry afterwards, right? So be like, oh, that's interesting. There's a lot here for this Virgo season that's going to get us out of the old way of working, right? The old way of being codependent on food, even, how that, or, being codependent on, this is, I go and do this because it makes me feel better. Addiction, even, and that would be, especially with that square with Jupiter and Saturn, Saturn being in Pisces, Saturn is really clearing out those old Pisces vibes of addiction, narcissism, illusion, right? And Jupiter is holding that space in Gemini to allow us to gather information on what does that look like moving forward, right? What does it look like if I'm not dependent on all these things that I thought I had to be on, right? What does it look like when I give myself grace, and just observe instead of reaction, instead of getting gaslit, right? Instead of immediately reacting, but just giving myself a little bit of a timeout, allowing the tower to fall. Shit, the tower's falling. Oh, now what? Give yourself that bit of grace, go and see that it is time, right? It is time for the tower to fall. It is time to be in this sort of environment instead of this environment. This environment does not look fun. It looks pretty drab, cold, right? This is warm, inviting, the 12 stars, right? The zodiac, being in touch with nature, being in touch with yourself. That's earth signs, right? And so we're about to move into this new cycle, right? So we have the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune does represent Jupiter, Jupiter being in Gemini, allowing us to keep having these conversations with Pisces, with Saturn and Pisces. How am I coming back more into myself? How am I seeing my own way of aiding to these ideas of dependency or codependency, and then just sitting with that and observing, right? If you keep going to the same thing and getting the same result, but wanting a different result, we know what that does, right? Or we know what we call that, right? Insanity. And so we are really here, like the energy is here to help us break that and really start this calmer, quieter, softer new way of being, right? And softness is really coming in, and you can see this with the water, right? Her cloak. It's soft. It's not giant waves coming and knocking us down. It is about planting these new seeds, right? And we'll talk about the underworld and all that stuff. I do like to talk about Persephone and going there. So, but we can do that at another time because I don't want to make this too long. Plus, there's just so much going on. But to recap, Dark Moon Virgo, take this time to sit with the High Priestess. Take this time to observe what it is that needs to be resolved in your life. Understand, yes, there's a lot of chaos going on right now. That's when you do just that short meditation. What is it that I need to get done today? It could be like that. What is it that I need to pay attention to today? Or you could say that before you go and meet your friends, or tell yourself, I want to stay conscious to what's going on in my head in order to end these old storylines that I don't want to keep happening anymore. It's going to be, Virgo season. I know we keep saying, oh, all this stuff, but we're here, you guys. The training wheels are off. We've entered eclipse season. It's Virgo season, which is one of my favorite times of year. I think it's most people's because we're coming out of summer and getting into fall. So we'd like to see the changes. And so really lean into the changes and allow them to show up and allow them to whisper to you, because I will tell you, you guys are getting a lot more intuitive and it's telling you things. And when it tells you things that you don't think you want to hear, again, that's the time you sit with the High Priestess and ask, okay, this is what's coming through. I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of freaking me out. What is the thing that I can do next to keep me calm, keep my nervous system calm, keep my digestive calm so I can digest this information that's coming through in order to move forward, to get things that we really want and to where we really want to be with ourselves and with others. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys have a beautiful dark moon in Virgo. If you have any questions, please reach out. You guys can reach me on Instagram at Independent Street Tarot. Or no, I think on Instagram, I'm still at Independent Street NOLA or Seasons and Ritual. And then I do have my two websites at Independent Street NOLA or Independent Street Tarot. I can't remember if I changed it into Season and Ritual. I'm batting 1,000 with professionalism today. So there's that. But we're working on it. We're working on it. I'm observing and I am working on it. Okay. All right, you guys, I'll see you soon.